Now I'm very excited to welcome back a great sports bettor, podcast host, and great friend of the show, Mr. Will Hill from Bear Bets, VSiN, as well as the Shoot Bet More podcast. You follow Will on Twitter at not the Will Hill. Will, thanks for coming back on the show, my man. I can't believe it. We're in the playoffs already. Last time you were on the show, congrats on that Tampa Bay bet you gave out. They won the division at 4-1.
Kev, what's going on, man? Yeah, it does go by fast. People always make fun of me because I'm like, wow, it's week 6. Wow, it's week 12. But I said this on my podcast yesterday. I was like, man, when Scott Hansen, I don't know if you're watching the Red Zone, 4:00 games, East Coast weren't great, but I was just watching the Red Zone. Let them flip around for me. Scott Hansen signs off and says, "We will see you in September." And that hit me like a ton of bricks because we know the season's over, but until you hear that, wow, like in that context. Because it's just shocking because the regular season is a different thing in the NFL. Like, the playoffs are great, but it's one game at a time. A lot of the fun of the NFL is the regular season. You know, the Red Zone channel, your fantasy teams, multiple games at once, good finishes, and that. Look, if your team's not in the playoffs, you got a long way to watching your team again. Next September. I mean, think about all the things that are going to happen between now and then. With we're going to have a March Madness. We're going to have a whole baseball season pretty much come and go, which is still a few months away. An NBA playoffs, a whole summer. So football is it does come and go quickly, and we're a long way away from September, but should be a fun playoff.
Absolutely. You got the draft, obviously, a little bit of a distraction. When you're a Bears fan like me, you're usually pretty high up there, but they got it done against the Packers, and it's kind of like we might have got the 7th pick or something. I think we're the 10th. It was worth beating the Packers. You got to beat the Packers, especially because they started their starters, and the Bears were beating their starters, so they have to be a little bit in shambles here, kind of coming in too. So you think the Vikings are a little bit, after what happened with the Lions, and we were just talking before the show about that. Any big takeaways from this Sunday?
Yeah, I went in and my big theme was like, man, I can't remember a week 18, used to be week 17, a final week of the season where less was at stake. Because usually I'm so excited for that week, all the different scenarios, all of the drama, the different possibilities where everything was straightforward. Okay, Tampa winning in, but they're a 14-point favorite. Denver, big favorite. Not that many moving parts. And it ended up being chalk, but I thought the early window was much better than anticipated. Green Bay, Chicago was fun, and that was going on, coinciding with Washington and Dallas, which was back and forth. And there was jockeying. Like, to me, the jockeying for position to avoid Philly, maybe the teams didn't care, but if I were a team, I would care. I know Washington's played pretty well against Philly, but I'm not dying to play Philly in round one. I'd much rather play Tampa. I thought that was a bigger deal than maybe those teams thought. These teams, these players, coaches, they never seem to prioritize seeding as much as us as fans and the media do. But I thought that was fun. I thought the drama of the NFC South was fun, where it looked for a minute, and we went through all of the emotions of like, wow, is Tampa going to lose this game? Wow, maybe they're going to lose, but maybe they're going to get in because Atlanta's going to lose, and maybe they can backdoor. Then Atlanta's winning, Tampa's losing. Wow, can Atlanta steal his division? Eventually, Tampa gets home, they win, and Carolina, Atlanta goes to overtime. Atlanta knew they were out. Maybe that factored into them not being able to get a stop in overtime. Maybe it didn't. Carolina did move the ball up and down the field. Nice bounce back this second part of the season from Bryce Young, who looks like he's at least going to be, a solid NFL quarterback. So that was fun. I enjoyed the slate more than I thought, even though, going in, it was not like a prime peak week 18 that we're used to with all the different scenarios.
Yeah, it's funny, and I called a lot of this stuff. I had a great article about like spoiler teams and stuff, and I wish I would have fired on more of them. I did fire on a few and hit some, but and sprinkled some good money lines on the Bears, Panthers. I didn't get on the Jets. I was thinking about it. I didn't get on the Cowboys as a cover. I didn't think about it. The Saints just looked ugly as shit, and they covered. These spoiler teams. These teams love to play spoiler if they have nothing else to play for.
Yes,
it's an angle I always look at, and I wish I would have just done a few more. I think I should almost like blind do it across the board at some point. But you have teams like the Giants that they didn't really have nothing to spoil, but they couldn't even touch the third string of the Eagles. That was bad. And then the Browns get losing by over 20. I mean, the biggest spread all year, and they couldn't do it. And like you said, the early games with the Falcons and the Cowboys or Falcons and the Tampa Bay Bucks back and forth was so interesting to me because it was so big. And if only Atlanta could have just held on last week that actually won that game, it would have been so much different because Washington would have been in trouble. Everybody would have been in trouble. There would have been a lot more storylines But from a betting
Great
perspective,
point.
we have, thank you. Betting perspective, we just have to remember these spoiler teams are live, but the teams that don't belong sometimes, like the Titans and the Giants, maybe stay away from those. Even though I had great line value on the Giants, I had +4, closed at +2, still didn't come through for me. But that's a good pivot here to talk about some coaches here on Black Monday, man. Was there enough coaches fired on Black Monday? I think no, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, is Pierce? I mean, he thinks. Last we heard, he said, and we're recording this, middle Monday afternoon. Pierce said, "Nobody's told me different. I think I'm back." You're starting to hear whispers that Brady maybe gets a more involved role, and if that's the case, does he want to bring in one of his old buddies of Vrabel or somebody? I know there's going to be some competition. It would seem like for Vrabel. So to answer your question, no. I had no problem with Dable coming back. I probably wouldn't be dying to bring Joe Shane back because, look, that's the team he built, and they're terrible. And you watch them in the Hard Knocks last summer. They weren't very impressive. So I'm not dying to bring Shane back. But as far as Dable, I have no problem. It wouldn't have broken my heart if, Callahan for the Titans got fired. I thought he did a bad job. Had no problem with Mayo going. So I would say Black Monday's not complete. But as of now, I agree with you. I'd expect 1 or 2 more moves, changes probably to take place here.
Well, I have some coaches that should have been fired, and I think that Zach Taylor should have been fired for missing the playoffs with Joe Burrow. Here's the thing. A lot of people, this reminds me of the Bears with Lovie Smith, and I didn't think Lovie was ever a good coach, and there's people that swear by him. His records have always been good. I think he was kind of holding that team back, especially from an offensive position, back in the 2005, 2006. And it's almost like he's getting so much credit for going 10-6 his final year. It's like, what would the Bengals be with a competent coach? And what would Zach Taylor look like if he was coaching the Panthers himself? What would Zach Taylor look like if he was coaching the roster of the Titans? He might not even have a win. Yet, it's almost like this might be the man, I think, that's holding the team back, yet you keep going with it. He's kind of blessed with the fact that he has all this talent, but they can do so much better, Will. I feel like the teams don't look at that enough.
Totally with you. I think the fact that, first of all, that organization is notoriously cheap, but the fact that he made, to bring the Bengals to a Super Bowl and then to be, a coin flip away from being back the next year, that has really saved him and the fact that Burrow got hurt last year, but I'm with you. I'd be looking for a new coach. I thought he botched the Saturday game a couple weeks ago, even though they lived to tell about it. The fact that this team missed the playoffs, you lost to the Patriots, you blew all of these leads. He's just, I'm with you. That, to me, that would have been the perfect Belichick team. Obviously, that's not going to happen just because, hey, the offense is intact. You don't need to worry about the quarterback or drafting skill guys. Just go in and get them more buttoned up, fix their defense, make them more professional, make them better in game management. And that would be a good match. Unfortunately, of course, we didn't get to see that, but I'm with you. I'm no Taylor fan either.
Yeah, that was one of them. And you already mentioned Pierce. I think he should be gone. There's no reason. Yeah, I mean, I just ran about him. He had less wins than he did last year. He saved by a lot. It's almost a top draft pick here for him. And he's supposed to have had a better roster in general. He can't manage a clock. And if you want to throw more out there, it's Raheem Morris. We complained about him a lot last week, Will. And it's like this guy cost the playoffs literally for the Falcons. And the fact that you stayed with Cousins that long and not know what you had, we trying to protect your GM or something? I don't know. It's like you have to make those decisions. But the fact that he still can't manage a clock in his second stint of being a coach, I don't understand that hire. I thought that was crazier, him not being fired, than a guy like Gerard Mayo getting fired. Here's why I scratched my head a little bit, Will. And yes, he lost the locker room and all that, but he was dealt with a terrible hand. I mean, they even traded Matthew Judon before the season, which was the only guy with any breath of life on defense. He had the worst hand, and they actually met expectations from a season win total. It was like 4.5, and I think it was juiced to the under, and they got 4 wins, right? Something like that.
Bounced back and forth, opened at 4.5. When they started making all the trades and people said, hey, this team's going to be awful, went to 3.5. And yeah, so kind of middle, depending on when and where you bet it. But absolutely, I see that side of it. I just think there were some things at play in terms of like his press conferences where he's kind of throwing his coordinators under the bus, taking shots at his players. You know, I think it was the rookie receiver Polk. He's like, hey, he's got to catch the ball, throwing people under the bus, not getting along. I think there were some things inside the building that didn't do him any favors. And Kraft said, look, I'm 83, 84 years old. I got this quarterback that we think is going to be good on a rookie deal. I got the coach wrong. Let me go out and fix it. I agree. He was not given a good hand. I would have no problem if they brought him back, but I'm indifferent to that one. I do see why they made the move.
Yeah, well, I think they made it because they want Vrabel. I think that's the logical reason. But why didn't you just? Wasn't Vrabel let go around before this? So I think they said Gerard Mayo. It's almost like creating an expectation that you're the guy, for a while because, first it was the offensive coordinator, obviously, and McDaniels that left, but then it was him. It's like they created this weird expectation, and now you're going to hear a lot of weird stuff about it. He's obviously African American, and I don't like to get into that side of things, but it's just some people are going to bring it up, and it's a bad look for the NFL. It's just this guy met his expectations because the market said this team's going to suck. You need to give him a roster, and yes, he's going to go say some weird stuff because he needs to. He's young. He's a first time head coach. So I just found that weird. Now would I have fired him? Maybe. I'm not saying I would have kept him, but I'm just saying.
No, I can see both sides of it. Yep. You laid out why they should keep him. I see why they got rid of him. I'm indifferent. I had no problem getting rid of him. I would have had no problem if they gave him another year, but hey, in some ways I applaud when these teams say, you know what, I know it's only year one, but let's just, we have this guy. Here's the thing. They have this guy in the building every day. They see all the decisions. They see how he gets along or doesn't get along, interacts. And if they think, hey, let's cut our losses. We made a mistake. We don't think he's the guy. Plus it's not the worst thing in the world that you never want to be the guy following the legend. You never want to be the guy following Saban, as we're seeing with DeBoer, or following Belichick. Sure. Maybe there's that guy. All right, you followed him. Now you don't have the pressure of following Belichick. You're not. If you're Vrabel and you take the job, you're not following Belichick. You're following Gerard Mayo. So maybe there's an aspect of that to it too.
Absolutely. I guess when I'm sitting here just talking forever, I probably should have just said he should have been hired in the first place. I think that's what I meant to say. And yes, I do applaud teams that do that. That's why Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Tennessee should have all done that this year. Maybe we'll get one more for the rest of the day. We'll see what happens. So who wins Coach of the Year? It's an interesting one. I took a couple shots, and I think I thought I betted some good coaches, but I definitely don't have O'Connell. And I definitely don't have Sean Payton out of the four I bet, Bill.
How's my Robert Saleh bet looking? Is that going to win?
I've done well in this.
I've done well in this market before. I had Dable with some long numbers a couple years ago. I had Stefanski in 2020, like 30-1. Look, sometimes when you shop at that end of the aisle, when you're looking at the 15, 20, 30 plus to 1 guys, you know what? You're not going to hit every year. You're not going to even hit every other year. You hit once in a while, and that's good enough. I didn't go overboard with this award. To answer your question, I do think it'll be O'Connell. It crossed my mind that, hey, I think it was more on Darnold, that dud they laid on Sunday night, but O'Connell wasn't great. I didn't love the field goal. I didn't love leaving Detroit enough time before the first half, but those are little nuanced things. He still went 14-3 with Sam Darnold. I think he'll win it. I think Peyton will come in second, but I think O'Connell will win a somewhat close race. But I do think O'Connell will win comfortably, Peyton second. Like who finishes third, fourth? I think Tomlin will be nowhere near the mix. I think the way they fell apart, loses luster.
He's gone.
Trying to think who the other guys are. Andy Reid went 15-1 in games that mattered to his team. I mean, that's not nothing. This wasn't his best team, but I think the fact that he has Mahomes works against him. So maybe that's the top three. Maybe it goes O'Connell, Peyton, Andy Reid. Am I forgetting anyone?
Harbaugh, because he made the playoffs and made 5 wins. But yeah, he was also gifted a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But going from 5 to 10 wins.
I think it almost works against him that everyone knows he's a great coach and everyone expected to turn around. This is almost the surprise award, and people, it's Harbaugh. He's such a good coach. He's got hurt. He's going to win. He gets he has such a high standard just because of who he is that it almost hurts him in this award a little bit.
Yeah, that's so true. I didn't think of that, as he was kind of the one I keyed in on as probably the one to win it. And that's true. His expectations were there, and that was an important thing with these voters. So I agree with you there. What about some NFL, man? I know the lines just came out. I made one play. And you know what? I'm thinking about another one or two. But to be honest with you, these are pretty tight, Will. Let's just quickly blow through it. See if anything kind of that you like or something you're kind of looking towards Saturday. And why DraftKings like dying on me right now? We have a game. I've switched to FanDuel. Chargers Texans plus 2.5 total 43. Any thoughts on this game? It looks like it's kind of going between the 2.5 and the 3.
I wouldn't be shocked if it closes 3.5 because I don't know if there's going to be a huge appetite for the Texans. Now, when you get to the 3.5, you will get the number grabbers, the pro players just say, hey, that line shouldn't be 3.5 at home. People will grab the Texans. So I don't think it'll close 3.5, but I wouldn't be surprised if 3.5s pop some books at some point. The whole world is going to be on the Chargers. I made this comparison. You and I are old enough to remember when they had the movie posters where the two most famous people in the movie are on the poster. And it's like, this star and that star. The Chargers have a better movie poster. You put Herbert and Harbaugh on the movie poster. They just look better than, Stroud, who hasn't played well, or DeMeco Ryans. It's just people bet the coach, the quarterback. And I know the whole world is going to be on the Chargers. I'm going to be on them too. I just think they're better, more well-coached, better at quarterback. Don't have a ton of skill. This is always Houston's time spot. That Saturday early afternoon game. They play in this game every time they make the playoffs, and it's similar to last year where they're a small favorite at home. Last year it was the Browns where they won big. I just think the Chargers are more buttoned up. I think the Chargers are a little better. I'm okay laying the 2.5. I'll lay it here with the Chargers.
Okay, well you know what? The fact that it's coming back is interesting. I thought 3 was a perfect number, and I'm surprised it came back a little bit because you're going to have a coach advantage and a quarterback advantage. But the truth is you're seeing a team with it's a great way you put it, a movie poster, because nobody's going to know C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins on there. You can even throw Joe Mixon. Do they recognize his face? Maybe you would, but most people wouldn't. Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh would certainly be recognized. The question is the rest of the team. Can they step it up a little bit? My only worry is that this thing's a little backdoorable, I mean, it's a situation where the Texans could possibly get back in just with C.J. Stroud's arm. And I've seen the Chargers defense get torched in the past. But here's another thing with the Chargers. They got a little bit healthier. So this is one I'm definitely circling. I'm possibly going to be making a play here quickly on the Chargers. Steelers-Ravens. So this is the largest spread, 9.5, total 44.5, Will. Nothing much I thought about doing with this because I feel like the Steelers kind of have the Ravens number in general. I know they threw that pick 6 in their last game that really took the Steelers out of this game. But the Steelers have just been in free fall lately. Can they kind of pick it up?
I mean, if you're playing the Ravens, you're not getting any sort of line value. I'm already starting to see some 10s pop up. Man, I did my podcast 8:00 Eastern last night, and I bet it, and I gave it out. I said, man, get your Ravens Bills teasers in now, because I think one line was 7.5. I think the Ravens Steelers was 7.5. Bills Broncos was 8.5. I said they're going to get those out of teaser range. Those are going to go up, so it's not just the easiest tease in the world. And that has been the case where Bills Broncos is up to 9.5. This one's up to 10. It would be just a lean towards the Steelers, but I'm not dying to get behind the Steeler team. They have played poorly for a month. The handful of teams, not even handful, but the few teams that have lost 4 in a row going into the playoffs, it usually doesn't go well for them. I don't buy this idea that it's going to be a fresh start for them. I think Baltimore is playing well defensively. I just think Baltimore is a much better team, but the line, boring answer, line looks about right. If I had to bet it, boy, at 10, I guess I would take the points, but not cutting in line to bet the Steelers at this point.
Gun to the head, I'm taking the points, but then you look at the history with the lower seeds, they get blown out a lot, man.
Yes.
Those 6 and 7 seeds, especially the 7 seeds, the history just goes against them so bad. And I've seen the Steelers in many roles here get blown out from other teams. Sometimes it was the Chiefs, maybe it was the Bills one year. It's just they've gotten blown out in the playoffs like this. So nothing I'm interested in. I suppose now that it's down to 43.5, I suppose I'd look towards the over because maybe the Ravens can put up 35 and maybe you do get a couple scores from the Steelers after just being embarrassed for 4 weeks straight. But, it's funny. We looked at a lot of unders throughout the years. Now it makes me pivot, although this game has traditionally gone under except for their last matchup where the Ravens just really put one on them. And that's another reason why you're scared of it. It's funny you mentioned the teaser because I'm going that direction too. And I'll just tell you what I'm doing. Broncos, Bills minus 8.5, total 47.5. I'm going to tease the Bills. And I'm going to tease them with the Rams. I think that the Rams are going to cover 7.5 at home against the Vikings. They could win outright. Obviously, money's coming in on the Rams. This was 2.5 early in the morning. Last night, it was probably 2.5. I don't know who wins this game. I think the Vikings could win it if you get a decent performance from Sam Darnold. The Rams still have issues on defense. But going back to the teaser legs, I think it's funny. Me and you are kind of thinking the same thing, except you were nice enough or smart enough, I should say, to get the Ravens early.
Well, yep, and I got the Rams wielding some teasers too. Some of these books that let you get like a cheap -6.5 teaser where you're only laying like -130 or 140 on a teaser. I don't mind if you can only get a 9.5 with the Bills, or if it gets to that point, or you get a 9.5 with the Ravens. I don't mind the Ravens on a -140 teaser. I know it's expensive, but if you got enough shops, getting the Ravens under the key, getting the Bills under the key, bumping the Rams up. Look, I mean, we're going to be doing these shows. I'm going to be doing my podcast. You're doing yours. We're going to be talking about these games all week, but you alluded to it. There's only, 6 games? The lines are generally going to be correct. The lines are going to be tighter, but when the lines are tighter, that does provide more value in theory for the teasers, because if the line is correct, that 6 points, 7 points you're adding to the line on the teaser becomes even more valuable.
Yeah, that is true. And so, great call. I'm not afraid to lay -130 on a 7-point teaser. I've got some really good books that actually still deal -120s and 6.5s too. So I'll be kind of looking at that coming throughout the week too. It's nice to tease a correct line in all cases. How about the Packers Eagles 4.5 total 45.5? Anything there? I hesitated. I'm like, man, I want the Eagles kind of. It's 3.5. I'm not going to rush into it, and boom, it's 4.5. So that's what happened to me this morning.
That's the game I'm most excited to watch, but that is the game from a betting perspective, at least Monday, first kind of glance at these lines. That is the game from a betting perspective I want the least to do with. Fun game. One really good team is going to be going home, man. And if it is Green Bay, and if the, if chalk holds here, what a disappointing season. Everybody's sleeper, the playoff success last year, to be 1 and done and to go 1-5 in the division, get swept by the Lions, swept by the Vikings, lose to the Eagles would be twice, considering they played in week 1. That would be a very bitterly disappointing, kind of an empty year, empty feeling for the Packers. But I have no feel for this game. No bets at this moment for me.
Yeah, they played in Brazil game 1 this year, and it was 34-29, but Packers outgained them by 4 yards per play, 7.1 to 5.5. What are those situations? But it's kind of like that. Jordan Love with his back against the wall, it hasn't been a quote. I think they have to play with a lead. I think the Eagles can play either way now. They used to be better with a lead, but it don't matter. But at the same time, the Eagles don't care about winning by 7-8 points. They'll drain the clock on you. They'll push it all the way to the 30-yard line, and then there's no time left when they could have got that field goal to cover for you too. So that's what worries me a little bit about this game as well. And then the final game, well, I guess we kind of touched on the Rams, but we got the Buccaneers against the Commanders. Will, this is 3, totals 50.5. I bet this at 3.5. I took the Commanders. The Buccaneers, they're a solid team, but they're still an NFC South team. They still show issues, especially on their defense. Baker Mayfield, very solid this year, but we have to remember there's still no Godwin on this team, and they've had a very easy schedule, especially here down the stretch. In my opinion, they were the only team to beat the Lions until the Bills happened, obviously. So they did some good things this year. But I took the Commanders with the hook just because I think that Cliff Kingsbury's a good enough offensive coordinator to get it done, and defense is playing better. I think Jaden Daniels kind of coming in. I think they did what's right. They kind of, put Jaden Daniels in for a little while, but they had the tiebreaker over the Packers, so that's why you do that. Both Packers and them both win. Commanders get it, and they won with their backup. Marcus Mariota's awesome yesterday. And, I think the Commanders can cover 3.5. Now it's kind of getting close to a hard 3 at -101 now. But I like the Commanders. What about you?
Commanders are nothing. I need the 3.5. Again, if you have enough books, these games around 3, you got to have a lot of books. Be good at shopping. Be diligent about what to play, when to play it, that kind of thing. Another rematch of Week 1 again. Tampa buried them, but that's so long ago where I don't take a whole lot in the Week 1 matchup. How about the over here too? Because Tampa to me is just a dead nut over team. They can score. They can't really stop you. Washington's going to move the ball. So to me. Look, I could see a scenario where Tampa's up 10 late and Washington gets in the back door to cover your 3.5 at 3. I think we'll get a lot of points. It would be a lean towards the dog. This is like a Sunday night primetime game, which is kind of a weird one to put in Sunday night. Maybe they want Daniels in primetime. It is a little bit of a weird matchup, but lean towards the dog. I like the over more than anything.
Yeah, like the over. I was looking at the over too. That's definitely a possibility, especially we got a team like Tampa. Yeah, that was ancient history. 37-20 was on Sunday, September 8th. But obviously the Commanders with a rookie quarterback, that was very expected coming in, and they are definitely a different team now. And Tampa Bay is an injured team on defense. How about Vikings Rams? And like I said, I'm teasing the Rams. I'm not taking either side of this one. Total 47.
Yeah, it's interesting how history is repeating itself because the only two games the Vikings lost until Sunday night were during the regular season. They lost to the Lions, and then 3-4 days later, they played the Rams. So they lose again to the Lions. Now they have to play the Rams again. Kind of odd, that little dynamic. The Lions are a physical team. They beat you up. I do worry from an emotional standpoint. Minnesota had their chances. Boy, they did have their chances to win this game, be the one, have everything go through Minnesota, and have a real shot to go to the Super Bowl. Now you got to go on the road and probably win 3 games on the road just to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be very tough. Can they bounce back psychologically? If you don't get pressure on Stafford, he's going to cut you apart. Nakua had a huge game against them. I like the Rams on teasers, and I lean towards the Rams winning the game.
And they got the championship pedigree with Stafford there. That's one. And like you said, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua. They got some real winners out there. I know they did break Blake Corum's arm, but they really still have Garden Williams and some other guys there. That is a little bit of a worrisome, but their defense playing a little bit better. I would lean Rams for sure at 1.5, but I think Pickens a pretty good number in my opinion on this game. So great stuff. Let's quick go to the college football playoff, man. Have you made it? Now, obviously semifinals. You got Texas hosting Ohio State in Arlington, so it's kind of home place for them. And then you have the obviously Notre Dame against Penn State. Have you made any plays in those 2 games?
As far as Ohio State, Texas, I like Ohio State. It's interesting how you look at this game. If you look at the season-long data, the 6 is too high. If you just look at the playoff performances, the 4 games combined between the 2 teams, the 6 is not high enough because Ohio State is basically look like an NFL team who could be like a playoff NFL team. I'm exaggerating obviously a little bit, but they've been so dominant. Probably like Ohio State team total over like the 29.5, 30.5. Again, you can, a lot of these books, pick your number and pick your juice. I think 30.5 is the fairest juice. I just think they're so explosive offensively. They've kind of gotten away from the typical Chip Kelly. Hey, let's run it up the middle. They're more spread it out, throw it down the field. Smith is just such a tremendous player. I like the team total over. I think Ohio State winning this game by a touchdown is a fair outcome, 7 to 10 points, something like that. You're still under the key number of 7, even though, hey, it opened, 3, 3.5, 4, 5.5. Okay, you're losing some line value there, but you're still covering this game if you win by a touchdown. Just think Ohio State's good enough defensively too to put Ewers in a situation where he's 3rd and long, and we know Ewers can turn the ball over in those scenarios. So I like Ohio State. I worry that I'm buying high, that I am a little bit of a victim of recency bias, but hey, you got to go based on what you see, and they look so dominant the past couple weeks. I'd be shocked if we're we're looking up in a couple weeks, Ohio State is not holding up the trophy. I think Ohio State's winning it all. I think they win this game by a touchdown. As far as the other game, I lean Penn State. I like the under more than anything, and the under's starting to get bet. I think there's some 45.5 out there. I still think the under's good. These teams are so similar. Neither offense can get separation with their receivers. Both teams, I think, will want to play a close, conservative, low-scoring game. I think Leonard will run a lot. Love is banged up, which helps the under. I lean towards Penn State just because, hey, I think it's a toss-up game. You're getting points. Notre Dame, boy, they got a lot of, I don't want to say cheap points, but they got a lot of, that game could have gone differently against Georgia. It really could have. They didn't do much offensively. I think just under 4 yards per play. So probably takes 20, 21 points to win this game. Somebody wins the game 20-17, 23-20. I like the under. I lean towards Penn State because remember, Penn State too, and this isn't a reason to make the bet, but it is something to think about. They played New Year's Eve. Georgia, Notre Dame with the delay. They didn't play until a couple days later. This time of year, 2 more days of rest, 2 more days of prep. Notre Dame played a very physical Georgia team. Meanwhile, Penn State played kind of, I don't want to say a soft Boise team, but Boise State's not Georgia. That's another check mark for Penn State too. So lean towards Penn State, like the under.
Yeah, man, you made some great points, and I made some of those points too. I don't have a play in it. I want Notre Dame to win as a fan because my dad's a big Notre Dame fan. My sister got a master's there. My buddy's a Notre Dame fan, but I'm also a Big Ten fan. But it's just like you said, the extra 2 days of rest now for Penn State's kind of big. Jeremiah Love's hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's kind of been hurt the whole last month and a half, but he just re-aggravated it pretty bad. He's a key speedster on that team. Now, Price has been doing pretty good too. I think that Notre Dame's offense, I think they fluttered mostly because they had the lead. It almost felt like they were trying to sit on it, not making stupid decisions. What does the offense look like more if they're not in the lead? They take some chances. It's funny. Penn State's actually the better passing team. If you look at it on an EPA standpoint, Notre Dame's a better running team. I think it's a good number, probably. I want Notre Dame to win. I'm not sure if I'm going to get involved. I lean the under, too. When it opened at 46.5, I'm like, do I take it? I'm like, we can get a 47. It didn't happen. It went down right away, Will. So I got greedy and didn't take the 46.5 right away, trying to look for the key. So that's what happened with me, but I still lean to the under for sure at 45.5. But I did lay it with Ohio State -6. Here's the thing. My number even says 5, and if you give Texas home field, maybe a point or something, it'd probably be 4. But I just think you're two different teams. One's hot, one's not, and Texas has a lot of choke in them. Texas doesn't have any real impressive wins. The Texas A&M win didn't age well. Watching them lose in the USC, actually, a lot of these SEC wins haven't been aging all that well at all. And Ohio State, man, they're unstoppable right now. They caught their stride. Ohio State by 7 is kind of what I'm thinking. And I actually took the under too. I think I'm seeing like a 31-17 game. So I feel like the under was kind of like more of a hedge to the -6. I don't see Texas winning this game, and I feel like Ohio State is going to, if they don't cover, it's going to go way under type thing. So I took both those plays. I think they can both hit. Now you can obviously take a larger play on the Texas team total under, which is basically what I described, right? But I went two ways in case they just win one of them.
And I never tease. I would say never. Maybe 2 times a year I'll tease a college game. You're not supposed to tease college. You're going to lose. I don't even know if I have a sharp card to lose, but you're not supposed to do it. I totally agree. It's not a good habit. Throw in Penn State in a teaser, 2.5 to 8.5 and a low total, a game that's going to be close, low scoring. Again, not good to make a habit of it, but I don't know. Is Notre Dame really going to win this game by 2 scores? I think it at least has the the symptoms, the characteristics of what makes for a good teaser. Close, low scoring, tight line. Like you said, all these lines are tight. So if you're getting Penn State where you can't get the 3 and you just want some action on the game, part 1 of a teaser. I know you're not supposed to do it. I'll probably have that for a little bit. I'll throw something on there.
Why not? Wrap it up in a Christmas present. Call it a game of the year, Big Ten game of the year teaser, baby.
And again, you're not supposed to do it. There's too much variance. There's blowouts. There's upsets. But again, when you get a low total, like Army Navy is usually a good teaser. Like those games are usually close and low scoring. This is one where, again, I haven't done it yet, but I am tempted by that. I don't see Notre Dame winning this game by double digits, especially with Love banked up.
Well, Big Game James is 0 for 12 against top 5 teams or something, and Notre Dame is top 5. He finally moved into the not being favored by 7 or more points.
Yeah.
Now he's back. Now he's back into the other category.
I thought he coached a bad game on New Year's Eve too. I mean, they got way too cute, got away from the running game. That could have really bit him because, man, they were just gashing Boise on the ground, and they outthought themselves. Whether you want to blame him or Colt Tanicki, I mean, you can have that discussion, but I thought they got a little too cute on New Year's Eve.
Well, yeah, me too. I agree. They should have been blowing that team out. That fumble was he snap it to Warren, I think, or something like that. That was a little weird. Franklin needed to stop that. Obviously, you answered the who wins the CFB playoffs, so we both think it's probably Ohio State, and I agree with you. Who wins the Super Bowl then, my friend? There's a who do you want to win and who do you think's going to win? Always that happens with me.
This answer is subject to change. You could talk me into about 6 different answers. I will go Eagles over the Chiefs.
Okay, so we're getting the repeat of 2 years ago. The Eagles make it back to the Super Bowl, and it's against the damn Chiefs. They just will not go away.
I don't have any conviction. I don't think
the
Chiefs team is great. I think it's wide open. It should be a lot of fun.
Well, the Chiefs, just like last year, weren't the top in my power ratings. Baltimore was the top in my power ratings last year.
Sure.
And San Fran was second. The Chiefs should have not won the Super Bowl. They just keep getting by, with extracurricular activities and just Mahomes being clutch and things like that. But it's just, if it was a gun to my head, I'd say Chiefs. I mean, I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC, and I expect them to win the Super Bowl. I'll be rooting for the Bills, but just like everybody else, you want Lions and Bills. Even as an NFC North fan, I don't mind the Lions so much, just because they haven't won it before. You almost feel sorry for them a little. But hey, I guess as a Vikings fan, anyway, you're in the same boat.
No sympathy here. Absolutely not.
The Eagles are more complete than the Lions, but what I will say is getting that Anzalone back, and they've definitely gotten some a little healthier. They signed some defensive ends, and maybe they're not quite as bad as we thought. I guess the red zone looked pretty good anyway. Or was that just Sam Darnold looked like bad? Maybe it was a little bit both. But that's a fair statement saying Eagles over the Chiefs this time, right?
Eagles over the Chiefs. Subject to change. So if I go on another show, here's the thing. Now I'm on record. This is a very popular, show podcast, as it should be. I can't change my mind, so I'm locked into that. But man, you could talk me into if the Ravens won. I wouldn't be surprised. The Chiefs. I mean, you go through all these different scenarios.
Yeah.
It is tough. I can't wait for it. Eagles have a tough game. Like the Eagles losing to Green Bay wouldn't shock me. So look, it's gonna be fun. I think the NFC especially is pretty wide open. Now, maybe Detroit has a different gear because they can rest, get some of these guys back healthy. That's a very impactful home field advantage. But it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I think 5 teams can win it. You name them. The Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, and then obviously the Lions and the Eagles. I think those are the only 5 that are going to win it. And unfortunately, the Vikings just missed it. But you're the best, Will. Where can everyone get your great information and plays?
Boy, that was a hurtful conclusion to this podcast. Yeah, no, they missed their opportunity. They needed the buy in the home field. They absolutely did. But yeah, I'm on VSiN. You can catch me throughout the week. Should have had more podcasts. Gold Boys Discord, Fox Sports, Bear Bets podcast, Bear Bets podcast. New episode dropping, I think in a little bit. So always fun, man. And when you have me on, usually that means you can check your phone. I'll be hitting you up to get you on mine with these playoff games and everything.
I was trying to reverse jinx the Vikings, my friend. Just reverse jinx. Here we go. Make sure you guys check out Will.